Good day everyone, Gio Delric here, and welcome to a review of Coco before Chanel, the 2009 film directed and written by Anne Fontaine, with Camille Fontaine as the co-writer that aims to retell, with creative liberties, the early life of Coco Chanel. But unlike most rags to riches biopics, this film chooses to stay in the former, and we'll be seeing it through various lenses that's presented from the film. So can a biopic really skim out on the payoff? That's what I'm aiming to find out. As stated before, this biopic attempts to convey the real-life story of Coco Chanel with creative liberties, one which, as the title of the film suggests, focuses entirely on the before aspect of Coco's life, starting from her beginnings as an orphan, then a seamstress, a mistress, then an innovator across the entire film, providing a very linear story that's deliberately chosen to be that way. Coupled in with this screenshot I found from a Q&A with the director on EmmanuelLevi.com, talking about how the film is intentionally made to be a slow-paced build-up to fully show Coco's transformation throughout the film. While the film does feature multiple background or one-off characters that become a piece to move the plot forward, this film mainly focuses on three characters, being Coco Chanel herself, Latine Balsan, and Boy Capel, played by Audrey Tautou, Benoit Fulvor, and Alessandro Nivola respectively, being the primary triad of cause and effect in the film, all of which plays an intricate role in the main conflict, being a combination of man versus society, self, and fate at the same time, with the first and third coming from Coco's upbringings of an orphan seamstress, who's essentially selling herself as entertainment in a society that already seems to view women as assets of commodity and quote-unquote fun times, while also showing the second conflict in Coco herself, as she struggles to accept help, especially since she views this as a vulnerability of playing into what is expected that a woman can't get anyway without the help of a man. This aspect of both self-struggle and the struggle to cover on way through the glass ceiling adds to Coco's complexity. She essentially acts as a revolver ocelot across the entire film. That is to say, despite the fact that initially she isn't trying to revolutionize, her survival instinct is subconsciously playing the long game, one that may have started from her own comfort, then evolving to something that's essentially bigger than herself. The other two leads also doesn't fall short from complexity, like Atit Wilson. He isn't the typical antagonist in a villainy sense, as he generally does love and, to some extent, even support Coco and her ambitions. But he does, however, represent the status quo, and to accept his help is directly to say that Coco won't go anywhere without the help of the glass ceiling, showcased in a scene where he introduced his family legacy, aka the Balsan dynasty, to Coco, who only sees her as his mistress. Then finally we have Boy Capel, who acts as Coco's mentor and actually does see her as a peer, deepened by the fact both of them are usually referred to by their nicknames, which in turn causes Coco to take her desire for clothing convenience into actual consideration instead of just for her own comfort. Yet he also unintentionally anchors her down, as Coco states that to love is to essentially surrender. Now, this movie primarily takes place in the Chateau de Royolo, or in other words, Athènes Balsan's estate, a high-class setting that immediately creates a major discrepancy to Coco's entire existence, as at the beginning of the film, she grew up in an orphanage, someone illegitimate, especially her past in the Moulins, working as an entertainer for the high class. This creates a dichotomy that silently says Coco isn't supposed to be here. This is further supported by the lighting and composition. For example, in every event inside of the Chateau de Royolo, it's constantly shot in low-key lighting, creating a suffocating and claustrophobic atmosphere as we see Coco both figuratively and literally drown in the shot. Since this film is about fashion, costumes obviously plays a big part in it, especially Coco's wardrobe, as earlier on in the film, she wears a typical dress, but when she took a carriage to Balsan estate, she dons a conventionally more masculine attire. This contrasting nature is repeated heavily across the movie, like in this horror fair scene for example. Coco sticks out like a sore thumb with the women present, who all wore big, poofy, and feathery white dresses. This contrast is exemplified even more when she saw Adrienne Chanel, of which this movie decides to frame her as Coco's sister, donning the same dress, which reinforces Coco's desire to innovate and eventually break free. As immediately after this, Coco stole Balsan's clothes and modified it, This results in Coco to always stand out as she constantly wears darker or even drab color schemes compared to the frivolous accessories of the woman that surrounds her. As said before, a teen Busan represents the status quo, making it so that despite his attempts to make her happy, he is unintentionally putting Coco down as a commodity he has. In addition, he also tends to have a lighter shade color palette compared to Coco, symbolizing that, from his point of view, he's still above Coco. Meanwhile, later on in the film, Boy Capel wears the same skeleton of a suit, but in scenes where Boy and Coco are together, they tend to have an exact match of color scheme, implying that Coco's true love is Boy, not Busan. As stated in the beginning, Coco Before Chanel is a biopic of Coco Chanel. But as the title says, it's all who Coco is, or was, before the Chanel brand took shape. It serves as an anti-biopic, if I were to put it into words, as the film chooses to stay in the origins of Coco for the majority of its runtime, because it's not called Coco after Chanel now, is it? So if I have to make a comparison, this movie is much akin to Meeting People is Easy, the Radiohead documentary film, directed by Grant G. I say this as they both choose to, let's say, de-glamorize fame, but the film does differentiate itself as Coco Before Chanel views it from the struggle of attaining the rights to even exist, while Meeting People is Easy goes about it from the lens that having fame itself can alienate you. So, can the film really showcase the grueling journey of a rising star, but skimped out on the payoff? Yes, Coco Before Chanel demonstrates this quite effectively, proving that wishes and dreams are not as interchangeable as one might think. And with that, I give this movie a solid 7 out of 10, and thank you for watching to the end. Give this video a like if you like it, or give this video a dislike if you dislike it, subscribe if you feel like, and have a good night.